My status as an assassin obviously exceeds the hero's, is a shit-tastic isekai anime. It is crap, it is trash, and I will explain why it's trash. Because the pacing is terrible, okay? This is a show that I knew was crap within the first 4 minutes of watching it. It is trash, which is unfortunate because it looks beautiful. It's got gorgeous animation, slick, beautiful animation, actually really nice character designs. And the opening action scene had a lot of promise. It gave me some promise. I was like, okay, there's production values here, and there's a little tiny bit of a retro vibe to this. And I especially like the fact, if nothing else, that it's not another main character gets killed or hit by a truck and gets reincarnated bullshit. It's one of the first isekai I've seen in a billion years that actually has a plot where a portal opens up, classmates get sucked away to an isekai world, and they have to find a way out. Presumably, that's like the plot here, and that's refreshing. That is actually refreshing. I'm like, okay, points. Cool. Unfortunately, like I said, this thing is doomed from the first 4 minutes just because the pacing is god awful, and I will get into why. So we start with the medias res, where our main character Akira Oda is fighting somebody on a castle, on the roof of a castle. It's a pretty cool, dramatic scene at night. It's flashy. It's badass. It's got some CGI that's done really well, and it reminded me of a scene from like an Ufotable anime or something. It looks really cool. Um, and it's scenes like this are there to get us into the action right away. Give us something cool. Give us a little taste of where this show is going to go once it really gets going. Before we set up characters and introduce everything and maybe have some time in the real world before we get to Isekai land. Smart. I like opening that way, and this show does that. It has a really good opener. Then we cut to Akira when he's at his school, he's in class, he's with his friends, and immediately I'm thinking to myself, okay, we're cutting back to the past now, and we're going to set up his character, and we're going to set up these classmates before we get to Isekai World, right? Wrong. This anime has other plans. It doesn't give a shit about that. So why cut to him in school in the first place if literally several seconds after we make that cut, a portal opens up in the classroom and everybody gets sucked away immediately into this other world, is talking to the king of this world or whatever, and immediately being given roles straight from an isekai RPG or something, a video game or whatever, and everybody's just kind of taking it in stride, including our main character, and it's just, ugh. There was promise, there was potential, and I'm just thinking to myself, we don't even know these characters yet. We barely even really don't know the main character at all. Why cut to their school life for like several seconds if they're immediately just going to end up in the isekai world anyway? Why was it paced like this? What was the point? It's one of the strangest moments of direction I've ever seen in an anime, especially with the first episode before we know any of these characters. What was the point of starting in the future in medias res with our main character, already this badass assassin guy, fighting this dude on a castle? What was the point of starting there if you're going to cut to the classroom and then immediately get them to Isekai World anyway without any setup? Why cut to them in school if you're not going to set these characters up before they get isekai'd? You might as well have just started the show with them already in this other world and then just learn about them there. And you would think, okay, maybe the rest of the episode when they are isekai'd at least sets up these characters better, right? No. No. By the end of episode 1, I was so baffled and so like I had so much whiplash from the bad pacing. Like within just minutes of this anime, I'm telling you, like the first 4 minutes, all of that happens. Everything I just described. 4 minutes. And then the entire rest of the episode, our main character's just walking around, and his whole attitude is so, like, dismissive. It's just like, oh, we really are in an isekai world, huh? Wow. Yeah, this really happened. Oh, look, I have assassin powers, and I can, like, activate this buff that feels like something from an RPG. Okay, cool. Okay, whatever. Guess I gotta figure out how to, like, deal with this now. It's just so, like, It would work if this was being played for comedy, like Konosuba or some shit, but that's not what it is. That's not what this is. It's totally sincere, it's totally serious, and like I had to rewind a couple of times just to try to keep up with what this anime was throwing at me because this whole first episode was so horribly paced. The pacing was so bad that I couldn't keep up with like what it was putting into my brain. I was like, weren't they just sitting in class? How did we immediately go from like 0 to 100 billion without any sort of setup? And yes, there are plenty of isekai shows, many, many, that immediately just get to the isekai bullshit with very, very minimal setup. But like, you usually within that first episode know enough about the characters, know enough about what's going on. You're invested, you know what I mean? Because that's the most important thing to the pilot of any TV series of any kind. And I feel like this was a light novel that they just crammed as much as they possibly could in this first season. Because from what I heard, I've only seen the first episode and I don't plan to watch more. But from what I've heard, the pacing only gets worse for the rest of the season. So, like, even the promise of a cute silver haired elf girl later uh, wasn't enough to keep me watching up to that point because I'm like, this is horrendous. I'm not invested. I watched one episode and I'm just like, this show didn't give a fuck about setting up anything. It's like even its world, there was potential here. Like this, it does have a little bit of a retro vibe. It has elements of like classic isekais from the old days, like El Hazard, A Vision of Escaflowne, which I love. I wish we could go back to those days when isekai were still fun. But this shit, this is unfortunately a reminder that like, despite some little nods to classic isekai, it's still very much a modern isekai, and it still just feels like, yeah, this main character is just a gamer guy who apparently knows all this RPG shit. We barely even set that up, but like the most telling scene of why this pacing is so horrendous is there's a scene, the only scene I can think of in that entire classroom scene that has any real dialogue of any kind, is this kid looking over at Kira Oda's phone and saying, "Oh, you like isekai stuff too? That's cool, man. I didn't know you were into that stuff." Seconds later, that portal pops up around their heads and sucks everybody up. We don't really know about any of the other classmates. We don't know who these people are. We don't really know much about Akira Oda other than he likes isekai stuff because one of his friends told him he does. It's just terrible. It's just terrible. I've never seen a pilot to a series paced so bad. This show sucks. Just stay away from it. And just man, isekai just needs to fuck off already. This genre sucks so much. It really does just make me want to go back to the other stuff, you know? Like ironically, despite this show having some retro appeal, and I know there's people who stuck with the entire season because of some of its retro appeal, but those retro elements that this show has, they're skin deep. They are surface level, they're shallow, the show itself is horribly paced, so all that goodwill is gone. And I just don't feel anything when these characters get transported. There's no feeling. There's no feeling of wonder that they're in this other world. You know? I'm sick of these characters just taking it in stride and being like, oh, I'm just in an RPG world now. Let me just use my RPG knowledge to just game this world. I'm sick of that shit. Now, this one had potential, but it was gone very quickly. So at least I immediately knew where I stood with this show, and I didn't have to get like 5 or 6 episodes in to find out how bad it was. Anyway, you guys let me know in the comments what you think of this show, if you've watched it at all. And till next time, you get to burning and live for the passion.